everyone, it's Artie Tambarambaa, also known as Tammy Porter, back again with another fun and bright art journal page using All Things Art by Marlene. So I've got a few basics like brushes and the artist sponges. I've also used the large white journal. I've used sticky glue, I've used watercolours, and then these are the new stencils. So there was the bus one and the flower one, and the new paper pad I've used, and I've also used some old paper elements, like they're fantastic. Whatever you've got lying around, you know, just use them. So also from the Golden Oldie pack, and there was also some of the frames in there as well. And then I've used 3 stencils. So that one's the newer one, Deco Screen, which is in all my work, and then a couple of older ones there. And then I'll go through the paints that I've used. I've got Happy, Hot Pink, Funky and Ballet. So a couple of neons as well in there. And then I've got Punk, Kissy, the Pitch and the Lace. And then a stack of greens, Kermit, Glow, Forest and Envy. So I've put the link to all the products in the description box, and I also used a whole stack of the markers as well. So for this one, I knew I wanted to create a little scene, and I wanted to use a mixture of die cuts, collage, making some collage elements, and some stamped painted areas as well. So the bus, that gorgeous bus stamp, I just love that. So I really wanted to do something with that one. So he's kind of where I started. I sort of thought, well, he can go sort of in the middle of the page, maybe slightly to the right. And this page was actually inspired by a page that Marlene did a long time ago, and it had the road going off into the hills, and she'd done some stenciling on the road, and that was the bit that sort of got me going. I thought, oh, I'll create, because I love doing little mountains and hill scenes. So I thought I can do a road that the bus is on. So here I am kind of working out all my bits, what I want to use on my page, pulling out bits. I cut some parts off of the paper frames, the die cut paper frames, and some I've pulled out of the Golden Oldie book. Yeah, so, you can get your bits and pieces from everywhere. There's so much in all those that I'm sure you'll find something. If you don't have the exact ones that I have, I'm sure if you've got some of the Marlene paper elements, you can make it work. So I also use some of the white craft tape to border off a thin border all the way around the edge, because I want that nice crisp white look. And it just helps me to be able to go a bit, crazy with the painting and not worry about it bleeding into other pages that I've already done. So I've kind of sketched in the road, and I've just using a lead pencil, and it's very faint, so you probably can't see it. It's really just there as a guide for me. And then I saw that new flower stamp, that gorgeous new stamp, and I thought, that could be the sun coming up through the hills. So I applied archival black ink to it, and then you'll see I used a bit of craft tape just to tape it off, sort of mask it off so that it looked, I didn't want to, because I'm stamping straight onto the page, I didn't want the whole of the flower. So that's a handy little tip. And I guess with the bus stamp, I wasn't exactly sure where he was going to end up, so I decided to create the scene and then put him on top. So I stamped the bus separately onto a piece of paper, and I did use Marlene's smooth paper, and it didn't stamp awesomely. I nearly did it again, and I thought, you know what, it's just a tiny little bit, and it's just because it was new and I hadn't tested it. I just decided to do it straight onto my page. So learn from my mistakes, but everything's fixable. So I thought, I can colour in those few little lines, it will be fine. And what you'll see me do in the end is actually completely cover all of that up. So it took a while for this one to come together, so it's a little bit of a longer video, but as always it does get there. But I did make a few changes at the last minute, so you'll see that. Okay, so I've painted in the road, and I didn't use pitch black, like the pitch. I used pitch, sorry, but I put a little bit of white into it because bitumen roads aren't completely black. They do have some grey in them. So I'm just painting that on and checking every now and then. So what I have done, which I didn't explain, was out of the paper pad, the new paper pad with the stripes and the patterns, I've kind of cut one of my hills with that green stripe because I just think that looks really cute. And then I also cut one for the foreground hill that the houses will sit on. And the others I am going to paint on the other hill sides. So that's what I am doing now. So it's a lot of fiddling, coming back, checking that I've painted far enough in with the black and the hills, just looking at where my elements are going to sit. So this bit, you sort of go back and forth a bit. And because I'm painting directly onto this journal, I haven't done any gesso, and it has got a bit of a smooth finish and a gloss finish. It does need a couple of coats of the paint just to give it a more even finish. And so what I'm doing is I'm using sort of glow, and I think I used forest, and I used that lighter green, but I have mixed a tiny bit of other greens in it just to give a little bit of shading and shadowing to the hills. Okay, so I kind of got my hills in place, and yeah, look, at this point, it takes a long time for this page to come together, so it does look a bit of a mess as you're making it. You're kind of like, ooh, I hope this finishes okay, but of course it always does, so hang in there. So now I'm bringing out the sunset behind, or the sunrise behind that flower that is my sun. And I started with yellow, and I actually started with the yellow marker because that's just so much easier than trying to paint in around the lines of the stamp. So I just went around with yellow and then continued what I'd done with the markers with yellow happy, which is happy paint going outwards. And you can see my brush marks here, but I actually think that looks quite cute. It's a bit sunsetty, sunrisey. So I come in with yellow, and then I think I use hot pink, which is an orangey pink neon, and then I use some funky, which is a real neon pink, and I'm just gradually going outwards onto my page and sort of blending back a little bit. So I bring it out and then I come back a little bit. And I think I also used Ballet and Kissy, so I basically just got the pinks to go darker as they went outwards. Yeah, so now I've cut out my bus and a few of my bits, and I'm still constantly working out if it's sitting right. I hope this video you can see what I'm doing. The sun, it's winter here in Australia, and we only have such a small window because the sun's sitting so low in the sky before it's blasting into my window, which is beautiful for warmth, but it does create a lot of shadows on my work. So I have to try and be super organised and get up early and film, and sometimes I get too distracted doing all the other things and housework and all that stuff, and then I think, oh, I've nearly missed my chance, and I race into my room. So just bear with it. Okay, so now what I've done is I've done some stenciling onto the road. So I used that gorgeous Deco screen, which is very geometric shaped, which I think looks like a little cobbled road, and I just sponged using the artist sponge, which I have wet and wrung out so that it is damp. So I just sponged white over that stencil, and then I actually came in with Funky, which is the neon, Punk, which is the neon purple, and that flowery, large flowery sort of petals stencil, and I used that to sort of try and make it look like sun rays going up into the sky. So hopefully any sort of floral with petals would work for that, if you don't have that exact stencil at home. And I also used the other stencil with the flowers and the checkerboard just to do a few little squares in the hill on the left hand side with a darker green. And I really like how that looks. I love adding details into my painted areas. So that's what I did on that left hand side. And on the other two hills, I just simply used markers and just did some little mark making. So I did some little, like little grasses, like it's got a little crop in it, and just some circles. So you can see that sun is chasing at the moment. Okay, so now it's time to colour in the flower, which is also the sunset. And to do that, I'm just using markers, and I'm mainly using the yellows, pinks. There's pinks and oranges, mainly pinks and yellows. And I really love how, because they're a dual marker, you've got your lighter pink and then your deeper pink, you know, on the one pen. So it makes you adding a bit of shading and contrast a lot easier. So I'm still, you know, putting the collage bits back and thinking, am I happy with that? And I actually wasn't happy with that front hillside. And it was at that point that I flipped the paper over and I saw the pink and green stripes. And I really liked how the pink in that sort of complements the background. So the background's got the hot pink sky. And I really like that then there's a bit of pink in the foreground as well. So I decided to flip over that page and recut that hill out. I already had the stencil, you know, the shape that was going to work. So it was super easy just to cut another piece. And as soon as I did that, I was much happier with how it was starting to come together. So every now and then I find an extra little bit of collage piece to, you know, an extra little birdie or little grassy hills, or, you know, just go through your little stash and see what you can find. So now I'm removing some of the craft tape. I didn't remove it all the way around, but I removed it from the areas where I know I want to add my collage. And there's nothing worse than adding a bit of the collage to your craft tape and gluing it, and then you cannot get your collage tape up. So I always now peel that up first and then try and match the line when I'm sticking down the collage pieces. So I'm just using a sticky glue to do this, and sticking them down and just making sure that I'm happy with where things are. And then in that floral stamp that I've used, that new flower stamp, there's these gorgeous little blossoms, little blooms, stamps that I've been using in all my pages. And so I thought, oh, they make the cutest little flowers at the front in the foreground. So I've actually added, just quickly stamped a few along there, and then I will colour them in with markers soon. And then I'm using the black marker just to outline around the hills, and this is what sort of helps to pull the page together, just to do a border around things and just neatens it all up a bit. So here's where I'm colouring in those flowers. I do eventually end up adding a few to the left hand side, and then I'm just going around some of the edges with a fine black pen, just to bring in some of the outline again. So the markers are gorgeous and opaque, and I really love that about them. But every now and then, you know, I sort of cover up some of Marlene's outlines, so just go in and fix that. Okay, so it's at this point that I decide I need to, you know, add in what was missing from the stamp that didn't stamp properly. And really this part is a complete waste of time because I actually end up changing it. But I've decided to leave things in for you. Just hope this one's not too long, but I just think it's important for you to see the process. And a lot of you say you like hearing the process about what I'm thinking, and you know, and sometimes things don't work and it's just a matter of changing them slightly. So it doesn't take, sometimes if you don't quite love it yet, it just needs a little something. Okay, so then this is, I cut out for my quote some of the words from the stripy paper pad. There's some really cool words in there. So I cut out love and I cut out direction, and I like that they were in the right colours for this page. And I end up, I cut the love into separate letters, and I've come up with a quote that says, "With love on board, every direction was an adventure." And I add a few words, you'll see that later, you know, just hand journal a few of those on. But that's how I'm using the love and the direction. So for this part, I won't, I'll probably go quiet, I think, and just let you watch this bit. It's not very exciting. I'm not the world's greatest colourer, but it was time to colour in that groovy little bus. And yeah, I ended up doing it green, and I kind of think, oh, I should have done it yellow or pink. Maybe yellow, I think. So that's what I would, if you're sort of replicating this page, do it yellow or do it orange, because the green kind of gets a bit lost in the hills. And I didn't think about that. Green's my favourite colour, so I just thought I would like to be driving a green combi van, so that's what I did. But I'm basically just using some of her watercolours to lay down colour first. So I'm not super confident at colouring in. A lot of the other girls are amazing with their shading. But I tend to lay down some watercolour first, and then I come in with coloured pencils and just do a little bit of shading and sort of neatening up of that watercolour look. I don't do too much neatening up, because I do like it to look like it's hand painted and not to be too perfect. So anyway, I said I was going to go quiet, so I will do that. I just wanted to explain to you what products I was using. Okay, so I'll be quiet. Okay, I'm back, and I've grabbed out my markers, and I'm adding the little flower stamps to the left hand side to have some little flowers there as well. And I actually do end up adding a few little bits of markers to the bus. Remember, they're quite opaque, so they will cover up some of your lines a little bit, but it did give them a lot of oomph, so I actually quite liked using them. Some of them I just popped a little bit down and then used a wet paintbrush to just blend it through a bit. So yeah, the markers are fantastic. If you haven't used them yet, go and get yourself. You're going to need all of them because they're amazing, and they're so useful, like for so many different purposes. I use them on everything I do, and I love that they never dry up, and I've never had one go fluffy yet. Like, they're fantastic, and I've used a lot of pens. Okay, so now I'm adhering down my little groovy bus, and I was originally going to have it more to the right hand side, but it was actually covering up that spotty hill, and I really like the look of that spotty hill next to the stripy one. So I decided to centre it a bit more. So what that means though is it's then going to go over both pages, and this does get a little bit tricky when you glue something over both pages, because when you have your pages open and closed, it can buckle a bit. So the trick for that is just to create a strong fold where your hinge is, and then do another one just a millimetre next to it, and that gives you just enough of that little bit of movement for when your page is open and when your page is closed. Okay, so I've glued that down. I'm just adding final little details. So I added some of the white marker just to give a little bit of highlight in a few areas of my bus. And now I'm just doing my quote and scribbling around the edges of my the words that I stuck on as well. And oh no, I do something else. I've forgotten that part. So I removed the rest of the tape, which is really only the top section that I had to remove. And then in that flower petal set, the new stamp set, there is a couple of stems that are like black and white stripes, and I just thought that's going to make a perfect black and white striped border because they're quite thin, and so it still leaves me a little bit of the white edge as well, and it goes perfectly with the stripe through the centre of the groovy bus. So what I've done is I stamped it for as long as I could, like the whole complete thing, and then I filled in the gaps just using a black pen, just because I thought, oh, if I try and mask off, I'm going to completely stuff it. So it was only a couple of little areas that I needed to fill in, but got most of it done with that groovy little stamp. And I think that sort of really finishes off the edge of the page. Okay, so that was how I'd left it, and I'd walked away and I kept coming back, and I wasn't really that happy with the bus. And then I went through some old paper elements and I found these were just little heads. So I guess you could turn them into sort of paper dolls. But I thought, oh, it's a hippo and an elephant, and they are in love and going off on an adventure together. So I poked their heads to be coming out of the bus. So that would have been ideal if I'd thought of that earlier and saved me a lot of time redrawing that background in. But anyway, I got there in the end. So you can see in the bus the little love. So that says with love on board. So that's what that sort of relates to. So yeah, super cute. Had a lot of fun with this one. Always like doing a collage page. They take a bit longer, but they really are worth it. So thanks for stopping by, and leave me a comment.